Today we've got 9-6, solving rational equations in inequality. So update your table of contents and your title page. So there's no notes to write down at the beginning, we'll have some later on, but this is going to be day 1. So we're going to have 2 different days to do this lesson. The first day we're just going to look at solving rational equations. So the main thing that is different now is that we have an equal sign. So that means that we're going to end up with an answer x equals to something. So the first step that we're going to do is find the least common denominator. Now we did this before when we were adding and subtracting fractions. And so the least common denominator in this problem is going to be 4x. But we're going to use the least common denominator a little bit differently this time. What we're going to do is multiply both sides of the equation by the least common denominator. And so on the left side I have to distribute it through. So it's 12x times 4x minus 3/4 times 4x equals 3/2 times 4x. Now most of the time when you do these problems, you're going to start with this step. And so then what we're going to do is cross out the x's because they can cancel here. Since this is just all multiplying, you can cancel it. The next step, you can cancel out the 4's. And then the last one, we can cancel a 2 out of this 4. And then let's rewrite what's left over. So we've got 48 minus 3x equals 6x. Now we just have a linear equation that we can solve. So we drop down our line and add 3x to both sides. So 48 equals 9x. And then you divide both sides by 9. So you could do it as 5.3 repeating or as a reduced fraction. The method I would prefer is that as a fraction. Then it also said that we should be checking our solution because in this case there are some excluded values. So we look at the bottom to see what would cause that to be 0, or the denominators of that one to be 0. And this one's just whole numbers, never mind, we wouldn't have to do that. So what would cause the denominator to be 0 down here is if x was 0. Is that part of our solution? No, it's not. So our answer should work out just fine. But we check by doing 12 divided by 16/3 minus 3/4. Does that equal 3/2? Well, you can type that into your calculator, or we can just do on paper 12 over 1 times 3 over 6, 16, because we had to bring this one up and flip it upside down. So we cancel out a 4 out of both of those. So 9/4 minus 3/4 equals 6/4, which reduces to 3/2. So it does work out. Okay, let's try another one. Again, we're going to start by stating the least common denominator. So least common denominator out of 3 and 6 is just 6. So all we're going to do is multiply both sides, which in essence just multiplies every individual piece by 6. All right, then we're ready to cancel. So we can have a 2 left on top there. This 6 cancels that 6. Now you consider it as a whole group. That is one group, just the 6 right there. And then we don't cancel anything out of the last one. So we get 4y minus y plus 6 equals 12. Now the reason I left these in parentheses is because we're subtracting. So we're going to take this subtraction and distribute it through. Think of it as like a -1. So it's -1y minus 6 equals 12. Okay, now we can just drop down our line and solve. So I'm going to combine these two together and they'll make 3y. And I'm going to add 6 to both sides. So 3y equals 18. And divide both sides by 3. And you get y equals 6. Okay, checking our solution. So 2 times 6 over 3 minus 6 plus 6 over 3. Does that equal 2? So 2 times 6 is 12. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Minus 6 plus 6 is 12. Divided by 3 is 4. And does that equal 2? No. Because hopefully you caught that I made the mistake here that this should have been a 6. Right here. I copied that down wrong. So that then is 4 minus 2. Now it equals 2. Good. We got the correct answer. Okay, let's try another one. All right, this least common denominator looks a little bit more complicated. So we have a group here, 3 minus x, and then we also have 24. Since 4 can go into 24, then we don't need to have a separate one for 4. All right, so now we just multiply top and bottom by that. And then we start canceling. So 24's cancel. The next one, 3 minus x cancels. The next one we could cancel out a 6. So on the top of the first one we need to distribute. So 15 minus 5x plus the second one we have 2 times 24, so 48. And then the next one we do 1 times 6 and distribute that in. So we're really doing 6 times x minus 3. So 18 minus 6x. Okay, let's simplify this down a little bit. So we can do 15 plus 48. And negative 5x plus 63 equals 18 minus 6x. Drop down our line. And I'm going to add 6x to both sides. And then at the same time, I'm going to subtract 63. So we get x equals 18 minus 63, which is negative 45. So that should be our answer. Now we got to go back and put it back in the original one to check it. So 5/24 plus 2 over 3 minus negative 45. Does that equal 1/4? All right, well 3 minus negative 45. Minus a negative becomes adding it, so 48. And this time I'm going to just type it in my calculator as 5 divided by 24 plus 2 divided by 48. And it comes up with 0.25. If you press the math key and fraction, it gives you 1/4. Hopefully we know that 0.25 is 1/4. And so we check that. That is the correct answer. All right, let's do one a little bit more complicated. So we need to find the least common denominator for this one. Now in the past, they were all completely factored first, but this one we're going to need to factor. So we're going to take a look at this denominator right there, and hopefully we can recognize it's n plus 2 and minus 2. And that will be our least common denominator. So now we go and multiply everything by n plus 2, n minus 2. And then let's start canceling. right, on the first one, we're going to distribute 1 through, which is just n minus 2. And then we're going to multiply another 1 through here, which is just n plus 2, and then equals 3. So even though it seemed a little bit more complicated at the beginning, it's actually a little easier now. So we can combine them together to make 2 n's, and then the negative 2 plus 2 makes 0. So equals 3, and then you divide by 2. So n equals 3/2. Whoops, rewrite that. Okay, so now we need to check it. So 1 over 3/2 plus 2 plus 1 over 3/2 minus 2 equal 3 over 3/2 squared minus 4. This looks like definitely something we want to do our calculator for. So do 3/2 plus 2, and so you get 1 over 3.5. We'll just use decimals because we're just checking. That's all right. 3/2 minus 2 is 0.5, negative 0.5. And then make sure you use parentheses here. So 3/2 squared minus 4 is negative 1.75. Now I'm going to just do this part in the calculator. 1 divided by 3.5 plus 1 divided by negative 0.5. And that gives me, that I might want to change back to a fraction. Negative 12/7. Let's check the other side. 3 divided by negative 1.75. Yep, again, it is negative 12/7. So that is the correct answer. All right, go to your left page and try this one on your own. And then this will be the end of the first day. So you don't need to do a summary yet. You'll add that to the lesson after we finish day 2. So you can start writing your questions and let me know if you have any questions when you get to class.